Hey, everybody, welcome to EverydayFI. I'm your host, Megan Combs, and I'm here to say that you do not need $1 million book deal or a famous blog to reach financial independence. By exploring the lives of everyday people pursuing FI, I can show you how to forge your own path to financial freedom the everyday way. I am back with full-time world traveler Julie from episodes 48 and 49. And on today's episode, we're going to be talking about relationships and full-time nomadism. We'll hear Julie's personal story of heartbreak, how she approaches balancing romantic and other relationships as a full-time traveler, and her current outlook on love. Before we do that, though, I'm going to play some advertisers who, by the way, I do not choose and do not condone. All right, and we're back. Hey, Julie. It's been a while. Not really. We saw each other in October. We went to Egypt together, but how have you been?
Yeah, it feels like yesterday, actually. I was just reminiscing on that trip. It was absolutely unforgettable. I
It
miss
was so
Egypt so
amazing.
much.
Yeah. And I
But
know you guys are probably like, "Wait, why aren't we talking about Egypt?" We will get there. We will talk about it. I have a plan. I'm going to tackle her and get her back here, and we're going to talk about that, but in another episode. I wanted to talk about this first.
so stay tuned, keep
Yeah,
them
stay
coming
tuned.
back. Keep
Yes.
them keep them on the edge of their seats there.
Yeah. You'll be a regular guest after a while. So, what have you been doing since we last talked? Not just since October, but since the last episode, which was, gosh, we're in episodes like 80 now. So, it's been 40 episodes ago when we talked. So,
Oh
what have
my
you been up to?
gosh. Well, geez, I don't even know. I don't remember when that dropped myself, but, yeah, in the last year, I think I've been to a million places. Well, that's a bit of an exaggeration, but I've been all over the place, keeping that full-time nomadism going, traveling the world. Maybe I'll just, like, roll through it starting in January. I was in Africa for 7 weeks. I went to Australia, New Zealand. I went to the Philippines. I went to India. I went to Denmark, had a little break in the US. Then I was back out there in Scotland, Greece, Turkey, Jordan, Cyprus, Egypt,
Wow.
Portugal, and Antarctica.
Yeah. Wow, wow. That's so many places. My husband and I this morning were actually talking about that, about full-time traveling, and we were wondering, like, how do you do it? Because it feels like even just traveling for 2 weeks out of the year, it takes so much out of you, and I know that we have a WhatsApp group with the folks who went to Egypt, and you posted in there like, "Oh, traveling is not always glamorous," and there was, like you were, like, sleeping in an airport or something at some point. We have done that too, which
Oh,
is
yeah.
not glamorous. It is funny, but it's not glamorous. So, how much time do you spend in each of these places? And like, how do you decide how much time to give yourself in each place, like, so that you don't burn yourself out on traveling?
Yeah. Well, gosh, I mean, I keep it real. Like, that's one of the things I feel like some other content creators don't necessarily do. They make everything look really glamorous and life is so, rainbows and butterflies. But no, I keep it really real because I think people need to know what they're getting into if they decide to do something like this. And let me tell you, it is exhausting. It is mentally draining. It is emotionally draining, which I think we'll get into later. But I think a lot goes into it. I'm trying to slow down. I've had some periods of slowness. I did spend a month in the same place in Italy in August, which was nice to kind of just like actually chill out. I really, really enjoyed that. And then I was also a month in Scotland this year, but Scotland is was a little bit more fast paced because I was in a lot of different cities in Scotland. So I try to balance some kind of slower pace travel with some faster pace travel. But it does pile up, like if it's too much flying, if it's too much time in airports, if it's and that's really the worst part, the flying, like, the sleeping in the airport part, yeah, that was not comfortable, but, I'm here now in the States for it's December now, and I'll spend the month here, and I'm itching a bit to get back out there, so, it's a bit of a balance.
Wow. Yeah, that's so funny. So, do you have a home base? For some reason, I thought it was in Mexico, but now I'm thinking that might be an incorrect assumption on my part. I thought last time we talked, you were kind of like had a home base in Mexico. Am I wrong?
Yeah, I know, it is hard to keep track. So, I have spent the most time in Mexico in the last 5 years. Like, that has been in terms of, like, length of time, that is where I spent the most time, but I don't maintain a place there, I don't have a place that I rent out or keep for rent because that would just be too expensive. And so I just do subletting when I'm in Mexico. And I didn't actually get back to Mexico this year just with my travel schedule. So because the government needs to know where you live, apparently. I do have a home in the States, but it's not mine. I just stay with my mom. I come to visit. I don't have like my own bedroom here or anything like that. Like it's really like I can't stress that enough. This is not my space. So it is very much like I'm encroaching and borrowing, and that is a little not that's also not so comfy. So I do still maintain like, "Hey, I am still pretty nomadic even though I do have a place to drop my stuff." I guess, yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense. I don't know how you do it. Such a homebody. I mean, I do love traveling, but I was telling Chris, my husband Chris, if I were to travel full time, I think I would have to stay in a place for like 6 months. I was like, that's where I could do the full-time travel because then it's not really full-time travel. It's like you're traveling to one place for 6 months and you're basically living there and then going to the next place. If I ever did that, which maybe someday. But my thing is I might never want to leave. Like I imagine staying 6 months in Paris and I probably just wouldn't leave because I love Paris so much. I've been 3
Yeah.
times and I wanna go back, so I don't know, I'm crazy about that city. So, but yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Well, you have to
you must
balance kind
just
of your desire for comfort with a
yeah,
little bit of your desire to explore, and I think this is what I
mhm,
run into.
yeah. Did you experiment with traveling first before you committed to doing it full time? I know we talked about this a little bit in your last episodes, I believe, but can you refresh my memory on like, if you because
Yeah.
I want to know if you play tested it first because there's some people
Oh,
who are
yeah.
like, "Oh, I'm going to drop everything and live in a van." And they don't play test it first and then they do it and they're like, "Wow, this sucks." So, yeah, did you experiment first?
I did actually, and I've talked about that. I think it's important to walk before you run. I think you need to try things on for size because there is no one size fits all. I did a lot of kind of like testing out of nomad life where I would rent out my house. I would go places for like a few weeks to a few months at a time. I lived in a tiny house for 4 months actually while somebody rented my house and I saved a bunch of money. And then I was traveling from there. So I did a lot of experimentation, a lot of kind of like open jaw travel too, where I would go from one place to another place to another place and then, it just started to I was, like, looking at the calendar, "Wait a second, how long have I not been at home this year? Why do I have a house again? Why" like, if I wanna do both, then it's really costing me a lot to do both, so maybe I should just pick one or the other. I think that kind of prepared me to go full time and just prove that I really did like it, that I really could do it, but obviously it involved making that big decision.
Yeah, for sure. And if y'all want to hear about all that, I'm going to link her old episodes in the show notes so you guys can listen to all of that. But now we're going to talk about something more juicy. Not that your life isn't juicy, but this is like hot goss type juicy.
It's the tea.
It's the
It's the
tea.
tea.
Yeah. Yeah. So when we were together in Egypt, I know you talked a little bit about how you had been in a relationship with somebody long term. You also had dropped a blog post right before we all met up in Egypt about the breakup that you had with him. And I know that traveling, or I guess I could say, I imagine that traveling full time like this and trying to balance any kind of relationship, let alone a romantic one, must be difficult. And so, I'd like to hear a little bit about the story of that heartbreak, and to start us off.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I before him, I was single for about 9 years, I think, and that was in Phoenix when I had a regular, traditional, stable life. I was also single, with some short relationships here and there that never went more than a couple months, right? And that didn't guarantee me finding anybody, living in one place and doing the dating apps and, like, you're not guaranteed just being in one place. So, hey, I thought, "Let me widen my dating pool, maybe." But obviously, that wasn't the only reason I went nomadic, right? But I thought, "Hey, who knows what happens when I start moving around and I start having access to a different crop of single men." And and then, yeah, 2 years ago is when I met my former partner, and I'd kind of given up. Well, no, I'm not going to say that. I've always been hopeful, you know? Sorry, I'm already getting emotional. I've always been hopeful. Like, I've always, well, not always. I have been hopeful, I think, in my recent adulthood. I have been hopeful because I have met good men in the world and they showed me their existence showed me like it's possible for me to meet somebody that I would like and that who would like me and that I could pursue. Like it's possible. It's possible. It's going to be extremely rare and it's going to be hard to find, but it's possible. So I did not give up hope, but at the same time I I don't go looking, and I think that is kind of an important distinction because if you're constantly looking, then you're almost acknowledging that there's something in your life that's missing. And I find the way that you think about things to be very important. I maintain that my life is full, my life is complete, I'm content and happy. And when a man comes into my life, I will let him in because he makes my already rich life more enriching. You know, my life already is rich. And I want to emphasize that to anybody listening. Remember that your life is rich and a partner should just make things better. They should not complete you. You should not feel like you're missing anything and so on and so forth. Yes, 2 years ago we met and it was a romantic story, I thought, a special story. He meets a lot of other women that way. I have come to understand.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I think one of the things I learned is that I did think I was special, or that behaviors I had seen and past decisions he had told me about, past bad decisions he had told me about. I thought I was special because I thought it would never happen to me. He would never do it to me. And that part I got wrong. So anyway, I guess, yeah, we met 2 years ago and we kind of things developed quickly and we made decisions to be together. First, I spent some time visiting him in the country that he lived. And we spent some concentrated time together and things went really well. And then we made plans to spend more time together. And he ended up quitting one of his jobs and came to meet me where I was. And we also decided he would come meet my family. He wanted to, it was very early on, he was talking about, you know, forever and his intention to marry me. And so part of that was he wanted to meet my family and get permission, kind of the traditional old fashioned thing that men like to do in some places. And so, yeah, he had quit one of those jobs and he came to spend time with me. And a little bit was some of these were my plans that I'd already made. So, and he didn't, he was kind of just along for the ride, which maybe caused some complications, I guess, and maybe how much ownership he felt over what we were doing. I'm not sure. But some things came up, some things that I saw, and, they weren't necessarily taken to heart, or he wasn't willing to understand. And a variety of things went wrong. But kind of through it all, I sort of said, hey, as long as we go into this with valiant effort, honesty and transparency, and it doesn't work out, and then we've just done the best that we can do. And the honesty was something that was missing in the end.
Yeah. That sounds so hard. And I know a little bit of the story, so I know what you're talking about, where you found that he was unfaithful. Do you want to share that bit?
It's so hard.
Yeah, I can see that because I feel like when we were talking about it in Egypt, you had a lot of anger, and now it's more sadness that I'm seeing. And to me, it's incredible how you grieve relationships the same way you grieve death, right? It's like all the phases and stuff. And I think anger's somewhere in there. It's like denial and then anger and then sadness and whatever. So yeah, so I can understand why now you're in the sadness part
Yeah, I actually don't know what order it goes in because I've been in all the places. I
all at
think,
once.
well, I
Yeah.
actually had so much sadness this year and I
Mhm.
got angry. Like when you saw me angry, I was like, I had not been that angry before. And, but the sadness persists through it all at the same time. I think there's one thing I have now that I didn't have when I first found out that there was a deception. What I have now, I think, is the big difference is now I have at least the clarity, which when I found the deception and we were together, I was like, well, what do I do now? Should I try to forgive? Should we like talk? Can we talk about this? Should we have counseling? Like, is he willing to show remorse and like is he trying to make this better? And is, how is he going to fix this? And I had so many questions back then, and so much of what was tearing me apart was asking myself, can I get over this? Can I forgive this? Can I look past this? Can we ever heal from this? Do I even want to? Does he deserve it? No. I figured that one out. But at least I have this clarity now that I didn't have then, which caused a lot of the turmoil that I lived through. So now that I'm on this other side of it, I still have the anger and I still have the resentment and the sadness and the grief and but I don't have the denial.
Yeah. So, with the clarity that you have now, is there a way that you would have approached it differently once you found out the deception?
Yes. Yes. I would have walked out like immediately. I wouldn't have doubted myself
Yeah.
in those moments where I was like, let me I mean, there was a lot of reasons why I stayed in that. As part of me was like, I'm not going to get the whole story if I leave now. He's going to keep lying. It's not going to come out, or I'm not going to have a full picture of the depths here. So I felt like I had to stay to actually uncover the truth. I think there was some trauma bond that I when you're trauma bonded with somebody, they could be the person that hurts you, but they're also the person that gives you comfort or that you wanna go to for comfort. And so I didn't wanna be out in the world in a foreign country all by myself, half a world away from anything comfortable to me with no one to give me comfort. And I think that was a consideration. Part of it was like I couldn't eat when I found this evidence. I didn't eat for like 5 days. And I kind of thought, I'm like, I can't like take care of myself right now. Much less if I can't eat, much less how am I gonna find a place to stay? How am I gonna get myself to an airport and out of the city, like somewhere that I can, feel supported. I'm not like mentally capable of that right now. I think what people don't understand how disorienting and destabilizing something like this is when you think you know someone and when you think you know how they feel about you and you have believed everything they've said until then, and then you find out how wrong you are. It's really just disorienting. And I just felt like kind of bewildered, so I couldn't leave for that reason also. And then and I will freely admit this because as I told you, I keep it real. There was a little bit, and I don't know how to describe this necessarily, but I also thought if I leave, he'll just go back to them, and I have to keep him away from them. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like I felt like I had to claim some like be possessive or something, and I didn't. I just like no, I he doesn't get to leave me that easily. You know what I mean? So I think that was another reason why I didn't just, like, immediately. And maybe there are others, and I've thought about this before, and I think I wrote them all down when I've been being very honest and self-reflective, and I've gone into really kind of deep detail on my blogs about this and in some videos. So, yeah, I'm being very introspective about what happened and my decisions in that too. So, I don't know, I think lesson that I've learned, the thing that I would do differently is to have left. when I saw this, but I also know that I went through my process. I found out everything. Well, you never know if you'd found out everything, but I found out a great deal, and I also found what I needed to know about me. And what I needed to know about me is that I will not stand for this. I will not reward this. I will not condone this. I cannot live with this. I cannot live with being betrayed like this, and I said early on that I would not that lying was unacceptable, that I would not be able I would not, it's just unacceptable. Trust is the entire foundation of your relationship. And if you don't have trust, you have nothing. And I had verbalized it over and over and over again, and there was no question in anybody's mind that lying was okay, and it still happened. So, realized I would not be able to look myself in the mirror and say, "I am a woman who stands for this," if I didn't adhere to my own standards. And one of the thing that shook me, obviously, is I didn't know who this person was, but the second thing was, do I know who I am? And now I know who I am. Like, now I know for sure I am a woman that you cannot treat this way. And I think that's the most
Yeah.
important thing.
Yeah. I mean, it shows you never know if you're gonna like keep your convictions until you're put in that situation, right? And it sucks when you're put in the situation and you're like, okay, now I have to prove it. Great. But you did. And I think what you said at the beginning about, approaching a relationship as a whole person and not as somebody searching for somebody to fill, some hole that you might have inside you. Like you don't approach relationships like that. I can hear that in the way that you talk about this. Like, even though you stayed for a little while, you didn't stay because it was like, oh, if I leave, then I will have nobody and I'll be alone and ooh, sad. Like, no,
Mhm.
you were fine because you love you and love being with you and your life is whole. I think, and I could not imagine being with somebody and then 2 years later they're just completely not who you thought they were. And it's like you wasted your time. So, yeah. And I mean, so I know you have at least two blog posts about this, and I read the first one. And I know you said that, like, he, changed his life to join you on your journey of being a full-time traveler, and that there were some, issues around that. Can you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, and I think this is kind of a universal thing. It can be a universal thing when it comes to people who decide to go nomadic or decide to, like, semi-retire, and it kinda goes back to the person and what drives you. And he is a person, like, I think like a lot of men are, that he feels very fulfilled by what he does for work, I mean, not necessarily what he gets paid, but obviously they do wanna feel like they're getting paid. He likes to be busy, and he likes to have something to show for his time, and he likes to feel valuable, and he likes to feel like he's contributing, and I sure, I like to contribute, and I do, but I also like recreation and leisure and learning, and I can just as easily, like, pick up a book or go to a museum or take a language class or decide I'm going to better myself in some way and keep myself busy in a way that's not directly tied to earning money or working. And he was very much like a fish out of water with not sure how to spend his time if he didn't have that job. And I tried to give him suggestions on things that he could learn and things that he could do and how he could fill his time and how he could make the most of the places we were traveling to. And he just felt like very untethered, unanchored, with no direction. And I also don't know if the dynamic of me giving him suggestions and telling him what to do, what he could do, if as a man he felt, oh, she's trying to control me or she's trying to manage me or like I'm not fully sure. I know that there were some weird dynamics growing up, I think. He has some weird dynamics with some of his family members, with being told what to do or being thinking he's being told what to do, and like, none of that went well, right? So, I think that played into it, him not really having anything that empowered him or made him feel like he was useful.
Did y'all have any conversations around what it would look like for him to quit what he was doing and join you on your journey?
We did. We did have some decisions or conversations about
Mhm.
it. We are also very different in that way, in that when I make a decision, I have, like, gone through all the calculations, I have thought about everything, I have looked at every scenario, I know how to budget, I am very analytical like that. I don't suggest something that I can't do, like, I have done the math. And so, when I kinda told him, like, "Hey, these are some things we could try," he was just sorta like, "Yeah, let's do it," you know? I've come to find out he is an impulsive person, which at the time I was like, "Oh, I love the kind of, like, go-getting, like, he must feel really good about me, he must be, like, really serious about me, and, like, yay, he really feel like he really loves me, he sees me for me, and he wants to be with me," and, it was something that I, like, got caught up in too because I was so excited that after 9 years single, somebody wanted me and was willing to put in the effort and make the grand gesture to prove that to me. And so I didn't question it. I didn't like ask to see his bank account, like I didn't do any of that. I was just like, okay, so I guess he's done his exercises to make sure that it could work out. Well, to go back to the impulsiveness, I think there's a little bit maybe fitting for this fight podcast, right? That he doesn't do a lot of budgeting and he doesn't think a lot about financial outlook and make some of those snap decisions about let's spend this money and let's spend that money and doesn't really have a firm grasp on his spending. And so that became clear. And that was obviously something that would get worse and worse over time, right? And me, I have my situation figured out. He did not, but we were still like more or less trying to split things. And so I think he was feeling all this pressure, feeling a little bit of that the male stereotype, like, no, he's supposed to not be a leech, he's supposed to provide. Not from me, but just from programming me, I'm a little bit like, "Well, what do you" I was thinking a little bit to myself, like, "Well, wait a second. Maybe you should, like, not just go spend $100 at the bar if you don't have any money, right? Like, maybe you should just not do that. Maybe you should, like, think about it and not do it." And so there were some things that I saw that I was like, "Wait a second, like, the the lack of, like, delayed gratification was a little bit, like, concerning to me, that he didn't have the ability to manage or, like, show some discipline in that area, which, all of these things that I saw, I was like, "Could this translate? Is this something that could translate into other aspects of life where other bad decisions could be made?" And when I brought up my concerns, he was like, "Oh my gosh, totally different things. There's like, I've never even looked at another woman. I would blah, blah, blah. I would never do this, and blah, blah, blah." Like totally unrelated, and everything that I was worried about came to be.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those things where the unfaithful part is like it's either you're unfaithful with another woman, you're unfaithful with your money, like there's always parallels, right? And it's not that he was being unfaithful with his money, but it was like he was being impulsive with his money. So he's being impulsive probably with this other woman, these other women. And it's very, I mean, these themes come up right in a lot of financial podcasts, not just podcasts about, the importance of having the money talks with your people who you're going to spend the rest of your life with, whether it's just a partner or a husband or a wife or whatever. And in the FI community, there was actually an episode that I did with an anonymous guest, and I'll link it in the show notes. I don't remember the episode number off the top of my head, but it was one of my earlier ones where he came on and talked about his divorce. And his divorce, I mean, this wasn't 100% of it, but a big part of it was financial. And he was on the FI path, and she would take out loans to pay for a couch. And it just got to a point where even though they had kids together, they had a life together, they completely deviated, and he couldn't do it anymore. So they got a divorce after, I don't know, over a decade of marriage at least. And so I think even longer. I think they knew each other since like college. So it's one of those things that I'm not surprised that like that theme showed up early, and then it was like came through in the end as well. I mean, it's so easy to see it now, 2020, hindsight is 2020, but when you're in it, you don't always see it, right? And so I'm curious, like if you were to get to have another relationship, not if, when you have another
Mhm.
relationship, would you maybe think about or do those kinds of conversations differently? Like have those kinds of conversations differently now that you've learned a little bit about that from this relationship?
Well, what's hard about that is you can have conversations, but it doesn't mean they're honest. And I'm not saying that that somebody is purposefully dishonest when you talk to them, but they can try to appear like they have certain a certain handle on things. They can spend money like they're so generous and so giving and not have anything actually behind that, you know? And so you see something that and you hear things, you hear them saying things, and you are led to believe a certain thing. And it's not unless you're like, Show me your passwords, buddy," that you know what I mean? Like, I I am extremely open about I mean, my blog is a pretty open book. So and I wear my heart on my sleeve. I am like, what you see is what you get. If you talk to me, like, I will tell you, you know what I mean? Like, I don't understand people who are not straightforward and honest and direct and, like, actually
Me
try to
neither. I don't
Yeah,
understand it. I don't
I
get it.
I
I'm like, how do you live like that? I feel like all of my emotions are on my face all the time. Like even if I tried
Yeah,
to lie, people would see it. So yeah,
yeah,
I understand.
yeah. So I guess, like, I will ask these questions, but it depends on, like, what is being given back to me, you know? And I think, like,
Yeah.
ultimately, what's scary is I don't want to be jaded by this and actually, like, have this affect me in a way that I don't think that it will, but, yeah, I still doubt myself just a little bit
You shouldn't.
because I didn't I
See
didn't
it?
dig as deep
Yeah.
as I should have.
But I mean, so here's something that I have learned in therapy, and even my husband like has this book that he read. It's the oh god, I'm gonna forget what it is, but it's the Stoics, which I know you're probably like, where are you going with this? But there's this part where they talk about the things that other people do have nothing to do with you. And what they
Mhm,
tell you, you take it at face value. There is nothing else that you can do about it because you can't read people's minds. You can't force somebody to tell you the truth. And so the only way to live your life is to, ask yourself, do I want to be somebody who's trusting, knowing full well that I could get hurt again like this? Or do I want to go through life and not trust anybody?
mm,
And I think it's easier said than done, of course. But to I'm going to say that none of that was on you. Like him being dishonest, some people are really good at being dishonest. I think you and I don't really understand that because like we're not good at it, like
mhm,
or can't do it. Like it's just not who we are. It's not our nature.
yeah.
But I've known people who are extremely good liars, and I'm like, whoa, how? Like I never would have seen that. Like that's insane. Who are you? Are you a psychopath?
Yeah.
So, and I don't think that's on you. That's not on you. And so Not that not that I'm like your therapist or something,
Yeah.
but yeah.
No,
Yeah.
you're right, you're right, like, I'm gonna continue to go through life and not jump to conclusions while knowing full well too that what someone presents to me might not actually be what it seems, but all I can do is keep going and see what my intuition tells me, right? But I think the other thing too I wanna add is that I maybe and I don't know if this makes me, like, more of an anomaly in the FI community. I don't really care what assets my future partner has, and I don't really care what he does for work, and I don't really care, how much his net worth is or anything like that. Like, what I care about is, do we have freedom? Do we have some location independence? Can we spend quality time together? Like, is he fulfilled and passionate by what he is doing? Does is he content with his life circumstances? Is he kind of whole, in so much as that we all have work to do, right? But is he whole and like, can we do this together? Like, I don't care what clothes he wears, what car he wears, how much money, how big his house, none of that stuff. Like, he could have no house, be almost just like me. But it's those other things, the honesty, the integrity, the character, the discipline, the ambition, the generosity, just, like, does he take care of me, emotionally? Doesn't have to buy me stuff, right? But, like, I want to make sure like, he needs to be a good man. And so I do wanna stress, like, I'm not checking somebody's viability via their how much is in your bank account, and I'm not banking on any of that, but I do kinda need to know, like, we both have some sort of understanding on how much how much we can spend and staying within our means, and deciding, like, how much do we need to work or want to work while prioritizing the, you know, interests and goals and hobbies we have and our desire to spend a lot of quality time together.
Yeah, and that sounds totally valid. Yeah, like, I don't think that that is asking for too much, It's and I get what you're saying. It's like I feel like the approach this guy took was, the impulsivity and the I'm not gonna care about money. I'm just gonna do this because it sounds like an adventure, and I really, love Julie, and I wanna be with her, and that's the furthest he thought about it, and he was like, "Well, I'm not really gonna share my money stuff with her, though, because I don't really have any, and she might not like that." Like, I mean, even
Yeah,
if you don't have any money, like, at least share it because then you guys can design a life together, It's like, "Okay, well, I
yeah,
work in a field where it doesn't pay me very much, but and I don't have a lot of money and I do want to still adventure with you. So how can we make that work with like what I have to bring to the table financially speaking? Like there you go. Now, I'm a woman, I'm not a man. I'm not, you know, conditioned to think I have to provide
mhm,
and support and do all of that. So I do want to recognize that like there are gender stereotypes, patriarchy is real even if people think it's not.
yeah.
Like and it hurts men too for this exact reason. So I get it, but yeah, I don't feel like it's that much to ask from your part.
Yeah, and I think
So,
you hit the nail on the head in that I think where he went wrong in a lot of ways is that he was not from the start, not honest about who he was and what his situation was and the things his past and I feel like when someone and this is another reason I think why I'm so open is like when you talk about things you can take you're accountable and you can acknowledge what happened and like that shows that you've faced it, that you've addressed it, that you've learned from it. And when people just try to hide from their past or they're not willing to admit it or they're just trying to pretend something doesn't exist, and that means that they haven't faced it, they haven't learned from it, they might not ever will, which means it will come back to bite you. And, I think they say this, some of the dating advice is like, ask them what went wrong in their last relationship. And if they give you some sort of canned response, then you probably know that they have not actually done any work to think about their role in that demise and actually sort of looked in the mirror and learned from it. And I think that's sort of like the putting the blinders on, that mentality, like, let me just move on to the next without actually taking accountability.
In this last relationship, what are the lessons that you took away from it? And also just to help maybe our audience, maybe there's somebody who's listening to this who wants to go full-time nomad and is also single but wants to stay open to relationships. Is there any like recommendations or advice you would give this person now that you've done this, it didn't work, and the lessons you've learned based on that?
Well, I'm gonna tackle that in, like, 2 pieces because I think there's kind of, like, 2 different tangents I wanna go on. And the first question I'll tackle the first part first, like, what did I learn? And I think it's the same thing I learn every time. And it's the same thing I tell myself every time is I'm gonna trust my intuition when thing first gives me warning signs. And I had a lot of warning signs. I had a lot of moments where my intuition was trying to tell me that, like, this is unsafe, not physically unsafe, but something is something is scaring me, like something I feel unsafe. I do not feel safe with this person. They have the propensity to hurt me. I had seen things, I had been told things that I was like, this is not a safe relationship. But instead, I do the thing that I do and I try to be understood. So I try to explain where I'm coming from and I try to get somebody to listen to me and some like it doesn't matter sometimes what you say and how well you say it if they're not willing to understand and listen or change or make any kind of accommodations for. And I'll just give you an example because this all probably sounds very very vague is he had a couple like he was still in touch with some of his exes. And I generally don't. It doesn't generally bother me. It hasn't generally bothered me in certain scenarios with my former boyfriends. But there was something off about this. And I had seen some of the text messages, and there was a way of it, a familiarity, a way the things that were said and the way they spoke to each other, there was something that made me uncomfortable. And then, of course, when I brought it up, the reaction sort of told me what I needed to know, and that, well, what are you like insecure? What do you not trust me? This is totally normal. Everybody is friends with their exes, and it's kind of a red flag if you're not friends with your ex. Like it was a lot of it. Like let me twist it around on
Yes.
you. Let me make you sound
Ladies and
crazy.
gentlemen, that is gaslighting 101
that
right there.
that is what not to do.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so, then you feel like you need to double down and be like, "Well, no, these are all the reasons why that you shouldn't do it." And it all just goes back to, like, me feeling unsafe, like, there was something about it that made me feel unsafe, and if it had been a different conversation and a different dynamic, maybe I would have been like, "Yeah, I don't care," like, "This is totally innocent," but there was things that I had seen and things that I knew about that I did not appreciate, and that was something that he did not respect. So, example there, right? I'm not really friends with my exes. There's a few kind of, like, guys that I kinda dated that I still talk to, but I don't really count as, like, a serious relationship, a serious ex?
I'm not friends with any of my exes. Not that like we're not friends. Like I don't talk to. No, it's just we had our time. It's past. I have no need for you in my life anymore. So like
Mhm.
it ended for a reason. There's
Yeah.
no animosity necessarily for me and my exes. Most of them. I just
Yeah.
have no. There's nowhere that you fit. So why try to make it work? So I mean, if I saw them on the street, I might be like, oh hey,
Yeah.
but that's about it. And that's kind of how Chris is too. Like even his long-term
Mhm.
ones, like they don't really talk, but if they saw each other, they'd be like, "Hey, that's it."
Yeah. It's fine to be cordial. You don't need to, like, wanna cast spells on them or anything, but I
Like,
don't
regularly texting them?
and
That
talking about your
that would be
current girlfriend also?
yeah, that would be weird to me, unless it was like, "Oh, we dated for a month and realized we were just better friends, and now we're good friends." I would understand that, but, most of Chris's friends are women, so, like, I have to be okay with that. He didn't date any of them, but, like, I guess I could see that, but not like what you're talking about. That's odd to me. So, yeah, I could see that as a red flag.
Yeah. Yeah, and I just kinda go back to, like, the fact that I was like, "Hey, this kinda like, I don't like this, this bothers me," and then he tried to explain to me why it shouldn't bother me, and in that kinda situation, it's like, why are you holding on to this so much? And it's because some people really need from the opposite sex to feel valued, and they need to feel admired, they need to feel praised, they need to, and like he had all these little outlets that he would go to affirmation from, which is another like slippery slope type of situation because verbal affirmation can turn into all sorts of things, and it did. And not only that, but keeping women on the back burner is is a hallmark for, and let me just tell you, I was right to be worried about exes. I'll say that much. So, I guess what advice do I have for other people who wanna date as a nomad? I mean, I think people said to me when I did this, they're like, "You're never gonna meet anybody now." And I kind of, like, laughed at that and scoffed at that because, wait a second, I have the propensity to meet even more people, right? But I'm still meeting more people that are confined to one location most of the time. And I think that's sort of the challenge is if you're moving and you're meeting locals, then you will meet just another type of the same person who's stuck in one place. And obviously, unless you don't really want to be a nomad, if you really do just want to find a new place to live, well, then that'll work just fine for you. I am challenged. I am uniquely challenged. And I think I've come to realize how challenged that is. How big that challenge really is I can move, I can be on the move. I'm kind of looking for someone else who can be on the move. When you think about like how technology is very location based, like any dating app is tied to a location. And I don't really use them very much. Very rarely do I try to meet anybody on a dating app, but I notice this is a deficiency in that system. And I really kind of tell people if you want to meet somebody, go do the things you love to do, and the person that you're supposed to meet is going to be there doing it too. Now, that sounds very pretty, right? It sounds very idealistic. But that is how I met the last few people that I was interested in, and how I have recently met people that I'm interested in. So, I still kinda stand by that, like, go out into the world and pursue the activities and the interests and the hobbies that you love and have, and hope that someone else is there kind of exploring and doing the same thing. But then again, are they location independent people? Are they tied to one place? You don't know. And I'll be f I'll be frank, like, if I meet that person, my life is totally gonna change, and I'm okay with that if he is my person. Like, if that means I have to live somewhere else for 6 months out of the year to be with him, sure. But if we're apart, I need to be able to trust him. And if he's working somewhere or if I'm somewhere working and we're in a situation where we're only seeing each other for a few months at a time and then we're going off to work, I need to be able to trust him unequivocally. And I just didn't have that with my last partner.
Yeah. I think it'll happen for you because you're so, like, wonderful and beautiful, like, drop dead gorgeous, you guys. Like, I met her in person, I was like, "This woman's like a model."
Oh, stop.
My mom was talking about it too. She's like, "Julie is so beautiful." I was like, "Yeah, she is."
Oh,
And that's not
that's
but you're
cute.
beautiful, like, inside too. Like, that's really what shines through the most. And so I don't know. I think you're taking this so well. Like, I know it was very hard, but the fact that you're still open to it, it sounds like, or at least you're getting there. I'm sure you probably need some time for your heart to heal even more, but I think it's going to happen for you.
That's really sweet of you, and I mean, I want to just for anybody who's listening to, and I wanna make sure that this is taken to heart if this has happened to you, like and I know this to be true too. This had nothing to do with me. It had everything to do with him and what was broken in him. Like, I even think too, this was only a matter of time. This was gonna happen because this was who he was, and this was a pattern that he had created for his relationships. And so, like, I know that this has nothing to do with me. I don't feel like some of the things I think people feel sometimes, "Oh, what did I do wrong?" or "What I wasn't good enough," or "I should be skinnier, I should be younger, I should be this or that," or, like, all of the ways that women can think, and it has nothing to do with you. It doesn't even have anything to do with her. It has to do with him. She was a warm body, you know? And, like, I know this to be true because even he said so after when he finally copped to it. It was attention. It made him feel good. And the biggest takeaway, yeah, is to go is when you see if you meet somebody and they will do whatever it takes to feel good, like that's the red flag, right?
Absolutely.
So I'll trust my intuition, but then at the same time, I'm not gonna blame myself.
Good. You shouldn't. You shouldn't. It's not on you. Well, thank you for being so honest and coming on and talking about this. I know some people are listening to this and probably like, "Wow, that was more than I thought I was gonna get from this episode." So I really appreciate how vulnerable you can get. No, and not a bad way. Like, you're
What
so
a
vulnerable,
word
and I love
vomit
that.
was.
No, no, because like, because I think being vulnerable on a podcast is very hard, and so you're very brave to do this. Like, it's so yeah, and I think people will really learn from this from you, and I hope I hope people will start following you more too now that they see this side of you. So, and and I promise you guys, I will talk to her again about travel. We will talk about our Egypt trip. We'll talk about some of the trips she's got going on, some group trips coming up too. I'm also planning on linking your blog and your website and all of that, and the new trips that are coming up in the show notes as well. So, yeah, Julie, is there anything you'd like to say before we sign off?
I guess I would like to say, I think people like me maybe get caught up to always sort of putting the glossy forward, and I have decided to do something different with my platform in that I want it to be an example of authenticity, of power, of strength, of honesty. And that means sometimes, like, yeah, I'm going to talk about things that are going to make people uncomfortable or they're not going to be, prepared. Maybe like if you do want to just have a finance or travel blogger and just read, the top 10 or have it all be cookie cutter. There's plenty of that out there, but I'm not a brand. I'm not like a personality. I'm just me. And I'm sharing the things that matter to me in hopes that it resonates with somebody out there. And I get so much amazing feedback that it does. And that's really affirming for me. So please, if any of this resonated with you, I would love to get some validation that I'm on the right track because sometimes I do hear people saying like, "Don't talk about it," and I don't want to overdo it because I'm not gonna try to monetize heartbreak or anything, but it's a real human thing. So I believe in honesty and transparency, and I'm gonna keep putting myself out there.
Yeah. I mean, these are the everyday stories. So that's why I do what I do. Like, I want to hear from people's everyday experiences, and people have heartbreak. People, experienced this, not like exactly like yours, but I'm sure a lot of people resonated with that. I know I did. I teared up because I've, been through that too. So yeah, thank you so much for coming on and sharing that. And if people don't appreciate it, then they don't have to listen. I share my IVF journey, so they get it. They get it on this show.
They get the personal
I
stuff.
think the people listening, yeah, the personal stuff's the fun stuff. So I think people listening will appreciate it. So yeah, thanks so much for being on here, Julie. And I can't wait to talk about Egypt next.
Yay. Well, thanks for having me, Megan. It's always a pleasure.
Thanks for listening to the show. If you enjoyed this episode, make sure to hit subscribe and leave a quick rating. Also, hit up my Patreon at patreon-everydayfi podcast for ad-free and bonus content coming in 2026. I'm Megan Combs, and I'll see you next time on Everyday Fi.